I'm in school and I have a problem. They've told me that in times of trouble, I should confide in a responsible adult who I can trust. Only, I can't trust any of the adults in my life, so I'm turning to the internet in hopes that someone can solve my problem, or at least point me in the right direction. It started during your typical school day. I watched the other kids making new friends and saying hello to their old friends, while I got shoved into lockers and called derogatory names. During recess, some particularly violent kids wanted to cut words into my arm with a penknife, so I ran for all I was worth and attracted the attention of my gym teacher, who said I should try out for the track team. My parents would never notice if I was out late because my dad is constantly on business trips and my mom is always stoned. So I made the track team, and that was that. Practice was daily after school. I was too scared to shower with the other kids on the team because they constantly mocked my naked figure, so I actually walked home sweaty and disgusting, and showered in the privacy of my parents' bathroom that always smelled like weed. One day though, all the particularly horrible kids were sick, so I showered at school for a change. I took my time and relaxed. And then I remembered that I'd forgotten my math books in my locker. The usual route to my locker was blocked off by the cleaners, so I took the long way and heard a conversation you don't want to ever hear at your school. "Your parents will never know. Now take off your shirt." The teacher was addressing a girl who was crying. "If you don't take off your shirt, I have no choice but to fail you, and you don't want that." I peeked through the door's window and saw 3 teachers holding scalpels toward a girl I'd never seen before. "It won't hurt if you hold still," said one of the teachers. I considered opening the door to stop them, but I knew I stood no chance against 3 adults. So I pulled the fire alarm with my shirt over my hand to hide my fingerprints, and hid in an empty locker, watching to make sure the 3 teachers and the girl all left the classroom. "Find whoever pulled the fire alarm," one of the teachers ordered. The teachers ran right past me. I thought they would hear the thick vibrations of my beating heart, but they didn't, and the girl ran outside to safety. Once I could guarantee the teachers' locations based on where I heard them running to, I ran home. I wanted to phone the police, but I had no useful information for them. I couldn't get a good view of any of the teachers, and I didn't know the name of the girl they had tried to violate. Mom was stoned while watching cartoons, while my dad was in another continent. The next day, I looked for the violated girl, but couldn't see her. I tried to recognize the teachers, but they moved too fast for me to get a good look, and none of my regular teachers fit the profiles of who I had seen last night. Maybe it would happen again tonight. Against my personal safety, I showered at school after track practice and was ridiculed by the rest of the team, but I couldn't concentrate on their mockery, so they made me drink toilet water, which meant I had to shower twice, which meant I was alone in school again. I walked the same route to my locker as last time, passing the same room, only there was nothing this time. Maybe they'd been spooked yesterday and were thinking twice about their life choices. I had to go to my locker anyway to get my sweater, and heard a scream from another classroom. I peeked through the window and saw 3 teachers with the same girl. Only this time, they had cut open her stomach while she was awake and hooked up to weird machines. "You'll cooperate this time," said one of the teachers. The girl cried in and out of loud, panicked gasping. One of the other teachers saw me this time through the window, so I ran for my life around the nearest corner and pulled the fire alarm again, with my shirt over my hand and hid in the rubbish bin as two teachers ran past me again. "We aren't leaving until we find who pulled the fire alarm," said one of the teachers, whose voice I couldn't identify. "What about the girl?" asked the other teacher. I didn't hear the answer, but I did hear them leave. I exited the waste and ran for the nearest exit, only to find it locked. Something freaky was going on, and I had no time to run around the school like a hamster in a maze looking for open doors. So I took a nearby fire extinguisher and, with my shirt covering my hands, smashed the door window and ran like hell. Track practice and the adrenaline had worn me down, so I hid in a tree rather than risk running on the open streets where I could be seen by the teachers who were patrolling the outside of the school as the fire truck showed up. "Everything all right?" I could hear a fireman asking a teacher. "No," said the teacher. "Someone saw us." "Do you know who?" asked the fireman. "No," said the teacher, "but I'm pretty sure it was a pupil, because all the teachers here are tall enough to look through the doors without having to jump or stand on their tiptoes." "But why would a pupil be here so late?" asked another teacher. "The track team stays after school for practice," said another teacher. "Maybe it was one of them. We'll get the names of all the members who were at the practice today and yesterday." Nearly all the track kids were sick yesterday, so I would be questioned for sure. What was I supposed to do? Neither the teachers nor the firemen had left the school, probably waiting for me to make myself visible to them. I had to wait for nightfall until it was dark enough for me to descend my tree, escape through the nearby hedge, and return home at midnight. This time, my mother was mad. "I've just gotten off the phone with the police. Where the hell were you?" I wanted to tell her what happened, but I broke down and cried instead, terrified of what lay in store for me tomorrow. Mother hugged me and phoned the police again to tell them I'd returned safely, though that was a lie. I wasn't safe. Phoning the police sounds like a sensible thing to do, but I'm just a kid, so why would anyone believe that I'd witnessed 3 teachers performing stomach surgery on a girl without using anesthetic, or that the firemen seemed to be in on it? Skipping school and running away seemed like the best choice for my safety, but I, and I alone, knew that there was a girl being tortured or something, and if I were in her shoes, I'd want someone to save me. When I showered in the morning, I noticed that I'd cut myself on the glass door during my escape. Maybe no one would notice. "Come with me," said the principal the moment I stepped off the morning bus. The principal made me sit alone in the waiting room while my heart palpitated and I came close to fainting. Did the principal know about the 3 teachers? Should I say what I saw? What if the principal was in on it? But then again, what if the principal could help the girl? I watched the clock for an hour. Was the secretary watching me the whole time? How are you supposed to look when you're not suspicious? I walked around and looked at books to make myself less bored. "Sit down and don't make any noise," said the secretary. Another hour later, the principal returned and led me to the principal's office, where I was told to sit in an old wooden chair. The 3 teachers who had tortured the girl stood behind the principal and stared at me. "We're sorry to make you wait so long," said the principal, sitting in a magnificent comfy chair. "I had things to deal with. I suppose you're wondering why you are here." "It beats being in class," I joked, trying to sound nonchalant. But it was also really boring. Is everything okay?" "No," said the principal, matter-of-factly. "Someone broke a door window with a fire extinguisher and pulled the fire alarm yesterday." "When?" I asked. "After school," said the principal. "And you're on the track team, which stays late to practice." "I didn't see anything, if that's what you're wondering," I lied. "After practice, I showered and left." "Have you already asked the rest of the team?" "Did you go home right away?" asked the principal, ignoring my question about the rest of the team. "Yes," I lied. The three teachers exchanged glances and said nothing. The principal leaned towards me and said, "You're lying. Your mother filed a missing persons report yesterday because you hadn't come home. So where were you really?" The teachers leaned towards me as well. "Well," I said, and I scrambled to think of what I could say. "I'll tell you, but only if they leave." The principal looked at the teachers, who nodded and left. So now I was left alone with the principal. Could he be trusted? The teachers were witnesses to the pulled fire alarm last night, so it made sense for them to be here this morning. The fact that the principal had police information on me was highly suspect, though. For the moment, I denied trust and had to think of an amazing lie. "Well," I said, "the other kids are really mean to me, so—" "So what?" asked the principal. "So—" I stalled until I thought of a plausible lie. "I tried to kill myself." "What?" The principal was genuinely alarmed. "Here's where I tried," I said, pointing to where the glass had cut me during yesterday's escape. "I used glass shards from a broken Coke bottle." "This is very serious," said the principal. "Please don't tell anyone," I begged. "I just get so sad sometimes, and I don't want the kids to know that their teasing really gets to me." "I can't ignore this," said the principal. "I have to phone your parents, and you'll need to see the school nurse to discuss what to do next. I'll tell the coach that you'll be absent from practice today, and we'll meet with the nurse right away." I had come up with a rock-solid alibi, but now there was no way I would be without adult supervision, meaning I had no way to check up on the tortured girl and see the three sadistic teachers. "Wait," I pleaded, scrambling for another lie. "Track is the only thing in my life that makes me happy. Please don't make me miss track." The principal appeared skeptical, but said, "Okay," in the interest of professionalism. So my mom came in, and we sat with a school nurse to discuss psychiatric treatment for my suicidal tendencies, and did nonsense picture worksheets on how I could best deal with my problems and emotions. I was excused from class for the day, but track practice was cancelled because most of the track team was away again. It seemed weird that they would be away again, but since I'd missed class, I didn't know what the reason was. I had no reasonable excuse whatsoever to be at school after hours. "Come on, darling," said Mom. "Let's go to the movies, and then we'll have some pizza." "Hold on, Mom. I better grab my history book so I can study." "I'm coming with you," said Mom. "You can't," I lied. "Give me one good reason why not," she said. She thought her child was suicidal, so her behavior was sadly validated. "What if the other kids laugh at me?" I said. Mother started to cry and said, "Please come back," and didn't hug me in case the other kids saw. I felt really bad for lying to Mom when she was clearly worried about me, but I needed to at least check one more time for anything fishy that might be going on at the moment. School was in session, and it wasn't even lunchtime yet, so I don't know what I expected to find. But then I saw her, the tortured girl. She was walking to the school's bathroom by herself. Her posture was solemn, her head was pointed to the ground. Her stomach must have been somewhat intact, and she didn't see me until I spoke to her. "You have to come with me," I pleaded. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm the one who pulled the fire alarms. I was trying to save you. Whatever they're doing to you, we have to tell the police." She silenced me immediately and scribbled furiously on a notepad. It was all the police's idea, and now that they know someone knows, they're going to speed up the system. They've already started on 2 other kids. They can hear everything I hear and say, it said. "What are they doing?" I whispered. Before she could answer, we both saw one of the sadistic teachers looking right at us. The teacher took great strides to walk towards us. The tortured girl excused herself to the washroom, and I ran back to where I left my mother, hugging her tightly like I was suicidal, and watching the teacher walk past us nonchalantly. The movie was boring and the pizza was stale, but I had to give my mother credit for trying. She didn't even smoke up that night. She just tried to engage me in card games and ice cream until it was time to go to sleep. I didn't sleep. If the police could hear everything the tortured girl was saying, I can only imagine the terrible price she's paying right now if they found out how much she told me. It wouldn't take long for the teachers to tell the police that I'm the one she was talking to. So I'm surprised I'm not dead or arrested until they don't consider me a viable threat. I'm just a kid. Who's going to believe me? I'm also suicidal according to my school papers, so anything I say will just be considered some psychological nonsense brought about by my non-existent depression. And it's nearly time for me to go to school again. What should I do? My next psychiatric evaluation would be in the nurse's office, and for legal reasons, one of my parents had to attend. My dad was doing business on the other side of the world, so my mom attended. They asked me questions about my relationship with my parents, with my peers, with teachers, what I enjoyed in my spare time, and if I had any fears about anything at all. They were all very interested in my fears, and they recommended a couple of weeks away from school and repeating the term. The psychiatrist asked me some more questions about my nightmares and told my mother not to worry about my academic future. There's no shame in repeating a term. Kids do it all the time. Repeat the year if you have to. School gave me the rest of the day off to consider my options, but I was feeling useless and powerless. If I was away from school, I would have no way of monitoring the sadistic actions carried out on my fellow students. I didn't know what I should do next, so I confided in my mother. She is stoned in nearly all of my memories of her. She isn't neglectful, but she's pretty lazy, and more often than not, she makes foolish decisions in light of really obvious options. However, her love for me has never been in doubt, and in this desperate time, she was the only person I could talk to without fear of death or torture. "Darling, if there's anything at all you want to tell me, I'm ready to listen," said my mom as we were driving home from the evaluation. I had no choice but to assume our house and car were bugged. Was I being rational or paranoid? "Mom, I know we haven't had lunch, but I'd really like a milkshake," I said, trying to sound mildly pathetic with a touch of ironic tragedy. It worked, and we went to a diner where I told her the entire story of everything I'd seen and done. The sight of the girl attached to weird machines while sadistic teachers dissected her abdomen. How I'd pull the fire alarms, thinking it would save her. How the school had tried to lock me in, and how I escaped by breaking a window with a fire extinguisher. How I'd overheard the firemen assisting the sadistic teachers on how to proceed with their operations. That the sadistic teachers may have recognized me. That I had a brief encounter with the tortured girl, and she told me that the whole thing was the police's idea. That I had told her that I pulled their fire alarms before learning she was bugged. Mother gawked at me and asked if I was high. I told her I wasn't. She asked if I was lying. I told her I wasn't. Once she accepted I was serious, she became hysterical, and I had to work really hard to calm her down so she wouldn't draw any attention to us while she sobbed about pulling me out of school and moving out to the country. "We can't, Mom," I replied. "What about the kids getting tortured right now?" "Darling," said Mother, "I know it's hard, but sometimes when you know people are suffering and there's nothing you can do, you have to move away and save yourself, or you'll just become another casualty. The world is cruel and terrible." "Maybe we should contact the police from a different city," I suggested. "They'll ignore us, report us to our own police, and we'd be apprehended," said Mother. "What about the Secret Service or foreign nations?" I asked. "I'm a pothead pixie, and you're a suicidal loony. They'll never believe us without proof," said Mother. "Like a video or a photograph?" I suggested. My mom became outraged, but thankfully kept her voice down. "Why on earth are you so concerned about saving a group of vile, terrible children who are always horrible to you? They force you to drink toilet water. Have you wondered if this torture might be too good for them?" "If it was me, I'd want someone to save me," I replied. She thought it through and said, "You're right." So, we came up with a plan. Well, mostly my mom came up with a plan. The school already had it on record that track practice was necessary for my mental health, so the teachers couldn't think strangely of me running laps, even though I hadn't attended classes today. Mother pretended to be the bored mother so she could wander the school and eavesdrop on what she could, hopefully capturing evidence on her mobile. I showed up to practice wearing my running clothes, and there were only 5 of us. Coach pulled me aside and said to me, "The principal told me what happened. If you need someone to talk to, you can always talk to me." "I have one question, Coach," I replied. "Where is everyone?" "I don't know," said Coach. "I was told they were all sick." Practice was uneventful. Against my personal safety, I showered at school, but the mean kids were sick, apparently, so nothing frightening happened to me this time. After I was all clean, I waited around for Mother. A half-hour later, she still hadn't shown up to our meeting spot, and Coach refused to leave me until I had left the school safely. I told Coach that I would look around the school real quick, just to see where my mom had gone. But Coach wouldn't leave my side, so I had no opportunity to snoop. On the way to my locker, we crossed paths with one of the sadistic teachers who I had seen torturing the girl. "I'm relieved to see you're well," the sadistic teacher said to me, "though I am surprised to see you at school." "The psychiatrist said that track was essential to my mental health," I said. "I thought track practice would long be over," said the sadistic teacher. "The poor kid's mother got lost," laughed Coach. "We were going to find her, then I'm going to watch what's left of the match." What are you still doing here anyway? It's amazing how pupils think a teacher's work hours are the same as theirs, replied the sadistic teacher, and Coach thought this was clever work humour. Mother was nowhere in the school, and when I checked the parking lot, I saw that her car was gone. I freaked out on the inside. Had she been apprehended? What were they doing to her? Would they torture her to find out what I'd told her? Would they hook her up to the weird machines and dissect her stomach like they did to the tortured girl? Could she have ditched me? Absolutely not. Mother can be a waste case, but she would never abandon me. "Where's your mother's car?" asked Coach. "It's gone," I answered. Coach thought of the right words to use in a situation where a suicidal child's mother had buggered off. "Your mother, she knows, right?" "Oh yeah," I said, and then I told a pathetic lie. I told her I needed my space and that she was being a cow, and she left. I forgot about that. My mind's been swimming lately. Coach did not seem convinced. "Well, if that's the case, I should just drive you home. It's no trouble at all." I didn't know if I could trust the coach. For the moment, I had to assume that all teachers were not to be trusted. "No thanks, Coach," I said. "I'd rather walk home." Coach, either being genuine or acting, put on the presence of a responsible adult. "I can't let you do that. I'm sorry, but I just can't." So I played along and said, "Okay, I know you're just doing your job. Can I use the bathroom first?" Coach said that was fine and went to start the car. I stalked the halls one more time, checking for my mother and any signs of tortured children. Only there were none, and I left school via the rear exit and escaped into the woods. I slowly and quietly made my way home, only to see 3 police cars in my driveway. What were 3 police cars doing there? Had Coach phoned the police following my disappearance? Did this have anything to do with my mother? The police were walking in and out of my house as though they owned the place, and Mother was still nowhere to be seen. They confiscated our home computer, all our telephones, and several electronics that I couldn't imagine would be necessary for police work, including Mother's electric toothbrush. The police also found Mother's stash of weed and excessive paraphernalia. "Any sign of the kid?" one of the police asked. "Not yet. We'll have to keep waiting," said another one of the police. My house was no longer safe for me, and I was worried sick about my mom, as well as scared for what might happen to me if the police found me. I snuck back to school, on the off chance that Mother might have actually returned. There were still cars in the school parking lot, but not my mom's. Who could the teachers be torturing at this late hour? Surely the students' parents would phone the police. Not that it would make much difference, but the police would still have to act their part and safely deliver missing children, lest the parents go to the media. Who was at school so late? And where was my mother? If I'd never told her what I had seen, she wouldn't be missing right now. She wanted to keep me safe by going as far as possible from the source of the trouble, and now she had been made a liability. I crept to the school doors, but they were locked. The best I could do was watch from a tree in the woods, watching to see who owned the cars. Unfortunately, I fell asleep, and when I woke up, the cars had gone. It was nearly daylight, and I didn't want to be near school once school began. I don't think anyone saw me. If they had, they would have dealt with me. For the moment, I'm hiding in a public library keeping a low profile and typing this. I'm too scared to return to school. The moment I step foot on school grounds, the police will apprehend me and ask me several questions they already knew the answers to. I wanted to get a hold of Father, but I don't have his mobile memorized. And what would I tell him? That Mother's maybe been abducted, and that I'm too frightened to go home due to police surveillance, and that he can't help because he's on the other side of the world? Not to mention, what if they've begun monitoring his phone? If I call him, they might be able to trace where I'm calling him from. I'm scared out of my wits' end. I don't have anywhere to sleep safely, and I don't know where my next meal is coming from. What should I do?